Greetings and welcome into yet another edition of the Line Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show with Chris Buccanati joining us today.
Draft talk, can't miss it. I can't skip the draft talk
of the NFL draft on Thursday in no other place than Sin City. So let the good times roll with the NFL draft, and a lot of speculation is just listening coming in that. Now there is at least a school of thought that there will be no quarterbacks taken before the Steelers pick in the draft, and that they will
a lot of momentum behind that.
If they would like, yes, we'll have could take Malik Willis or any other quarterback that captures their attention, or could go another route entirely, and neither would shock me.
Yeah.
And also would not surprise me if Malik Willis is not sitting there when the Steelers pick at number 20.
So the reason I asked Boots to come on is because of that exact thing we were talking about off the air. And that is that, you know, if Kenny Pickett slips to 20, do the Steelers take him? Right? Is it 19? You guys are 19 or
20? 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it sounds like a no. I mean, who knows what all?
It's all smoke and mirrors right now.
But it sounds like the Steelers have joined a long list of NFL teams that are not enamored with Kenny Pickett as a first round selection. If he's there in the second round, maybe you think about it. Is what it's sounding like, and. I don't know if it's his tiny little hands that are scaring people.
Best thing I heard was
what's going on there, but
that of the 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round last year, all 5 would be ahead of this year's crew. That's how.
Yeah, I mean, this
disappointing
is not,
a quarterback class it is.
Yeah, this is definitely not.
But you don't want to reach for a quarterback.
Being
but
heralded as a great.
You said it about class. 2 months ago, Booch, and it's like the Eagles had a second, or at that time a third first round pick. I mean, if they were sitting there and want to take a risk on somebody, and, they have a rookie contract, but if they all drop in the second round, then, I mean.
Well, and the way quarterback contracts work in the NFL now, and because of the way the Steelers roster is constructed, I think they do want to ask themselves the question, is whoever we would draft at 20, if we take a quarterback, within the next 2 to 3 years, can he be like 2 standard deviations better than Mitchell Trubisky is going to be as a spot starter for us, because we feel like we've got a roster that's ready to still compete in the division right now. So are we better getting baseline quarterback play and boosting the roster with a day one starter somewhere else with our first couple of picks? If the difference between, standard replacement level mid-tier NFL starter and whoever it is, Kenny Pickett, Corral, Sam Howell, or Malik Willis. If you don't see a big difference there, then you don't make the pick.
So Carroll is coming out right now, and they're saying he's a party boy and this and that. And I'm like, damn, all these guys are getting the Johnny Manziel treatment right now. I mean, they're afraid to give these guys all this money because they're already party boys now. What are they going to do when they have all this money?
And if you think about the guys who have been high draft picks at the quarterback spot the last few years, there was hype around them for a good year or two in their college careers. And one of the knocks I've heard on Pickett, because I think, Ironhead, you and I talked during the season, that I said I thought Pickett to me felt like a good match for the Steelers precisely because I thought he would be ready to step in and produce at least marginally well as a starter pretty quickly in the NFL because of all his experience. That's the knock on him, that it wasn't until his senior year that he really put it all together. And if you're one of those guys who can be a top 12 guy, you've got such a natural skill set that you show it earlier. And, again, Goon, you and I were talking about former legendary Eagles first-round pick Danny Watkins, 26 years old when he was drafted in the NFL. Pickett's a little bit of an older guy. And, if you're going to make an investment at that position, you maybe don't want to take a guy who's coming up on his 23rd birthday.
I'll give you 2 names. One, Joe Burrow. Didn't really put it together until his last year. And he sure as hell put it together. And then in my lifetime, Kerry Collins. Kerry had always had that future. He had a great future ahead of him type of thing when he was the backup quarterback. And even when he was playing, they were just like he didn't cross or make that next step until his senior year. So I mean, I don't put
Burrow
that
had
in
a decent NFL career, but he never won a Super Bowl. So I don't know if Burrow,
No, but I mean, if they're going to say something like that he didn't put it all together until his last year, maybe he didn't have the people around him, and
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but there are so many different factors and so many ways to get to stardom at the quarterback spot in the NFL. And anybody that thinks that there's like a prescription out there, right? I mean, because there are guys that have come from small schools that have done wonderful. There are guys that, had every accolade you could possibly imagine coming out of college, and the old can't miss moniker, and weren't able to put it together. And again, for a wide variety of reasons. I think there is something to, and I don't know. I mean, I genuinely don't know Kenny Pickett. I have no idea what his NFL career is going to look like, and I won't be shocked if he ends up being a star. A great player. I won't be shocked if we never hear from him after draft day. And he's just doing some spot duty here and there in a backup role or even a third team role. I mean, none of that would surprise me. But I think quarterback is so hard to project at the next level because, again, on one hand, people will say, well, it's all about confidence. You got to know. Be able to bring guys with you and have that moxie, that confidence. Well, Johnny Manziel had the confidence and the moxie. I mean, that wasn't his issue, right?
So does Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and truthfully, I mean, Tim Tebow in a very different way. But I mean, you talk about a mature guy who understood. I mean, again, there are just so many different factors. Excuse me, that play into it, and part of it is. Just getting into that right situation, True. Right? And you don't know what that right situation is sometimes until it plays out. I mean, Tony Romo was a great fit with the Cowboys, and there were people that didn't think he would ever do anything or amount to anything in the NFL. But I mean, there are guys again that have been superstars all throughout that don't pan out. There are guys that were lightly talked about and not highly heralded that emerged as terrific. I mean, it happens, I guess, throughout the draft at all different positions. Sure. The quarterback, especially. I just think we've seen, so many surprising hits and so many misses with those first round picks, and I think. To me, if you're the Steelers, I don't think you can take Kenny Pickett just because, hey, let's take a flyer and see what happens. I mean, if
anybody
your
knows
evaluation is, if your evaluation is,
he's in their building.
We think that this guy could be a long-term starter in the NFL. Then I think you take him, and really same thing with Malik Willis. Because I don't know, I don't have any feel for any of these guys. I really don't in terms of what I don't know if a couple of these guys will end up being NFL stars, or if when we talk about this quarterback class, it will go down as a class that just had zero impact.
Watch them light it up. Watch all three of them, all three guys that are supposed to be possible first round picks, just do really well in their career. But I want to say, I was having this conversation this weekend with my brother and mother. People went for the blue-white. And my wife is just sitting there laughing, and she's like, you're forgetting Tom Brady. I mean, but he's so far off the chart.
Yeah.
As in good to where he was.
Yeah.
But, that's the ultimate crapshoot that just came up, snake eyes. Personally, I mean, the way that he hit, but it gets like you were alluding to it earlier. You get with the right program, the right team, the right fit. It just makes it special. You have just say you just relate well with your quarterback coach. It just clicks.
Or
to
sometimes
you
just click with a receiver or a couple of receivers, and man, you know what? We just have a rhythm here, and that again allows you to kind of develop some confidence, understand the schemes, you work together. I mean, there's again, that's the other part of it is there's just so many different elements to what makes an effective quarterback. And there have to be some intangibles there, leadership and, But even the maturity part, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to say Ben Roethlisberger was a mature young quarterback, but it worked out pretty well even in his immature days with the Steelers. So, excuse me, again, there's just so many different things that go into it, and for all of the analysis and all of the experts that are out there and trying to get their thumb on it. Again, as often as not, they're missing with whether or not these guys project at the next level.
How much of this stuff is smoke from GMs to get people off their trail? And because I always go back to obviously what I'm used to, and that was my team. So, Kyle Brady got drafted by the New York Jets, and he never once spoke to a New York Jets coach at the combine, never went to an interview and this and that. But I believe that it was the Browns who had 11 or the Patriots, one of the two. And it was Belichick.
Belichick always liked Brady.
Like 10. And he always called him Kyle Brady was Bill Belichick's great white whale or big blue whale or whatever, because he had always wanted him. So he was coaching the Browns, and he wanted him. But the Jets, they never interviewed him. They never did any kind of work on Kyle Brady. They just didn't want the Cleveland Browns to get Kyle Brady, so they drafted him. I mean, how bad is that as an organization? Let's take him, not for our needs, just to screw somebody else.
This was a team that was about a year away from hiring Rich Kotite off the street. So, yeah.
Well, there you go. There's your answer.
Yeah.
But, I do, Butch and I, we do love the draft. I do like watching the draft. And you know what I do that I don't know if it's NFL Network or ESPN, whichever one. But when they get to the second round and they get to the third round, they get to the fourth round, and then they say, I guess not the second, but the third through seventh round, they'll be like, hey, some classic picks that came out of this slot or this draft or this number or this round. And you look at some of the names and you're like, wow, that's pretty damn cool.
And that's going to happen this year, I think, because this is a good draft to not have high-end positional need in the first 10 to 12 picks. So I actually think the Eagles and Steelers are both in a good position because there's a lot of depth starter talent in the back half of the first round. But the other thing for people who are big draft fans, Goon, is that there is way more uncertainty about what's going to happen on Thursday night than there normally is. I have no sense of what direction Jacksonville is going to go with the number one pick.
We're like, you should do who do you think that Jacksonville, we can go through the first 10 picks is usually what we do on draft day in our show here. I don't have any idea what anybody is going to do. I really don't. I don't.
So they could take an offensive tackle, two different offensive tackles. They could take one of three different defensive ends.
It's just amazing.
And the guy who everybody spent the whole college football season saying was going to be the number one pick in Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, he might drop out of the top 10.
They say he might drop to 15. And Booch is like, would you be happy if the Eagles took him? I said, at 15, yeah, I think it would light a fire under his ass and to say, you know what, I'm not as good as I think, I need to go out and prove myself. And I think that's the type of thing. But I don't know. Again, I don't know if the other teams are just putting screen. But I know he's not a Detroit Lion. I don't think he's a Dan Campbell guy. I could probably say that for sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
That's just how I feel about it.
I'll buy that.
Overachieving, knee biter is what he said. I want that tough guy and this and that.
Sure, he's praying. He is praying that Jacksonville goes offensive tackle so he can take Aiden Hutchinson.
Absolutely. Yep. A guy he can coach and just, wind him up and send him after the quarterback and get there and go. So another thing I want to say about the quarterback hitting the right, hit the right receiver, having the right coach and getting confidence in that, or you could be David Carr and have just an absolutely horrendous offensive line. See, Ben had a very good offensive line when he was young. It saved him. It really, really did. So a guy like David Carr,
offensive line, good defense, great running back. Again, it was an absolutely great situation.
The perfect storm.
A young quarterback to be stepping into.
What did Ben drop to?
He was 16, I think.
Did he get a 16?
Yeah, something.
Oh, I thought he was higher than that. The Steelers actually traded up a few picks to get him, didn't they?
Yeah, they
a few spots.
Was it maybe it was 12?
I think he was. Closer to the 10 to 12 range. I think.
Yeah, it might have been 12.
I'll look it up.
But it is fun watching those the draft, and I like watching the draft day stuff and where the guys are with their families. And I always like we just kick off?
No, you're good. We're still on.
Okay.
You just can't hear it.
I just can't see myself. I mean, God forbid I can't see myself, Chris. Jeez. I mean, I like seeing like the draft room and stuff like that. Who people with their parents and like literally your name gets called, and it's like that is a life-changing, a family-changing event there. And who was it? Geno Lewis, who dropped to the third day. Remember they had him at the first day. He was at the first day draft, and he went the whole
brutal.
second day, and then the next day he fired his agent, and then he got drafted by the what was it, Jets?
11 for Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I looked it up too.
So I just like watching that, and then I like seeing guys who it's I like to see when the agent sits back and let the guy celebrate with his parents, girlfriend, wife, whatever. But your mom and dad are right there. Again, it is a familial changing event, a generationally changing event when these guys go over top 15 picks overall. And I love seeing that, but I always hated watching Aaron Rodgers just sitting there. I mean, it was sort of fun a little bit at times, and then I was like, all right, this is getting really, really, really sad because they were like, and then the NFL guys can project what team needs a quarterback and doesn't need a quarterback. And you're sitting there another, back they were 20 minutes or a half hour for draft picks then. So it was like, okay, well, there's 4 teams ahead of you. They do not need quarterbacks. So that's a 3 more hour wait for you right there. And I was like, oh, agonizing. So I always enjoy watching that, but it's also sad at the same time.
Alex Smith a bust, in your guys' opinion, speaking of Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think I wouldn't consider him a bust.
Not a bust at all. I mean, he's had a lot of starts under his belt.
Yeah.
He's the king of the check down. There's no doubt in my mind.
I agree. I wouldn't call him that, but I think I can totally see the argument, which is that, the number 1 overall pick, there was a generational, like top 6 all-time quarterback in the draft who you were comparing Alex Smith to, and you can probably argue that he played some of his best football after he was no longer wearing your uniform. Yeah. So from that perspective, maybe you say he was. But I don't know. I put him somewhere in between. Not a bust. But.
I got you. I mean, he's going to be known the rest of his life and the rest of our lives in NFL history. I really think that they need that comeback player of the year to be named the Alex Smith Award. I really do.
Yep.
With what he came back from.
The moral of the story is do not play quarterback for Washington under any circumstances.
And the fact that the scenarios that all went into it, the score, the date, the All-American, the All-Pro left tackle.
Same spot on the field.
Everything was the same. But it was Joe Theismann. That was actually, I didn't look down upon that one when he went down. Actually, the more I heard him as he got older on Monday Night Football, I wish that Deerdorf would have done it to him in the box.
They were a terrible team.
Who's doing Monday Night Football this year? Have they announced?
I don't know.
Okay, because I know everything is complete shakeup.
Is it Fowler and Herbstreit,
or did Joe Buck and
I don't know. I got confused in that whole thing where Joe Buck got traded for Penn State Purdue. Game. Yeah,
and I did read the scenario of how it happened, and it's actually the right one. I think they are Monday Night Football. I think they're going to ESPN. I think, or they're going to do the Sun. I don't know. Who knows?
Who cares?
Yeah, they're saying Strahan might be the lead guy on Fox now. Yeah, I heard that's being rumored. He might be one of the lead guys on Fox's, and I'm like, I don't like Strahan. I really don't like Strahan.
As long as he doesn't have to call Eagles games, anytime the Eagles get associated with that guy in any way, they lose. They lost to the Giants last year, who were terrible, but they were retiring Michael Strahan's number. I knew we were done. I knew it. I knew we were done. Okay, so what do you think, Ironhead? Quarterback, you go yes or no? You going quarterback if you're the Steelers. Let's say, going back to the uncertainty of this draft, at one point they were saying 5 quarterbacks could go.
Yeah.
Because they said Willis and Pickett, then Howell, Corral, and Desmond Ridder were all mentioned. Now they're saying no quarterbacks the first 19 picks. So let's say you got your pick of the litter, all the quarterbacks nobody else wants. You want the Steelers to go quarterback there?
For me, there's a couple of things at play. One is, are the Steelers truly enamored with Ritter, and if so, do you feel fairly confident that you could get him in the second round? Because so part of it, I think, is you got to see how the first round plays out until your pick. If in fact there are no quarterbacks taken when the Steelers draft 20th, and if Ritter is the guy out of the quarterbacks that they are looking at and that they like, that they're like, no, that's our guy. I think there's enough other needs on that team. I think you take a flyer on quarterback in that first round and, kind of cross your fingers, see if you can get him in the second round. And if you don't, again, I don't think, and I don't know how the Steelers are evaluating this. And, I trust the evaluation process, I guess, as much as you can with any team. Again, if they're looking at it and they're testing out and they believe Malik Willis is, man, that dude, that he is going to be a star in this league, or he can be, if not a star, not a superstar, but man, that guy can be effective, a long-term starter. Yep. Then yeah, and he's there. I think you take him. I guess I just don't know enough. I haven't seen enough of the quarterback play. I'm not comfortable or confident in projecting any of these guys as, yep, look out, man. NFL's not going to know where to hit them.
Yeah.
Which, again, isn't to say that some of them may end up being that. But there's none of them there that, and obviously, we're not talking about any of them being a lock for a top 5 pick. So, with quarterback being the position that you need to fill, that's telling you that nobody in the NFL is confident that any one of these guys is going to be a franchise-type quarterback. But it really, for me, is just going to come down to how the Steelers are evaluating it. I'm not going to be heartbroken if the Steelers don't go quarterback in the first round, because, again, I don't think you take a quarterback just because, hey, we need to get a quarterback. You do need to get a quarterback, and you need to get a long-term starter. But if he's not there, you don't just throw away a first-round pick on a wing and a prayer. Again, if in your evaluation, one of these guys could be that guy and you think is a good fit with your organization and what you're looking for, then I think that part 2 of that evaluation is, how confident are you in thinking that they could be there in the second round? And if you don't think they're going to be there, you don't think there's much chance of that, and again, you're enamored, I'm okay with reaching a little bit. But again,
I got one for you.
I don't think this is a draft where the Steelers we just have to get a quarterback. And, I know there's been some talk about the Steelers maybe trading up. First of all, it's just so not what the Steelers do. And I just don't think any of these quarterbacks are, again, they may end up and, 5 years from now, you may play the tape back and Ironhead was crazy. You wouldn't have traded up for that guy. But sitting here right now, I don't think you trade up when there are as many needs as the Steelers have and as many good players as you're talking about, Booch. I don't think there's, the top 10 isn't where you want to be in this year's draft, because again, I think there's a lot of, I don't know. I think there's a lot of guys though that are going to be good in the NFL. Maybe not exactly how good. And the Steelers, again, they need help on the offensive line. They need help on the defensive line. They need help. They've got to get another linebacker. They've got to get a secondary. So again, to a large degree, I think if you're the Steelers, you do what the old school tells you to do. You just take the best athlete available, the best guy at the outside of running back, at any position. And again, if it happens to be quarterback, cool, go get him, man.
I got one for you, Head, and it goes a long line in the tradition of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that is that lineage of centers.
Yeah.
Lindblom from Iowa would absolutely. I hope he's not there, because I hope the Eagles take him as a Jason Kelce.
Yeah, that's not happening.
What, the Eagles aren't taking him?
I think when the Eagles had 3 first-round picks, I didn't think I didn't think they were going to use all 3. But if they had, then I think maybe there are some other guys. There's a kid from Nebraska who I think they are targeting as maybe a second or third-round guy.
Gotcha.
There are some other players who can play center, and the Eagles' philosophy is on offensive line, as long as we've got Jeff Stoutland to coach them, we can draft later and get value because he'll just coach them up and they'll play well. And I mean, look, if you look at their offensive line next year, it's going to return 2 dominant starters from this past season who were 6th and 7th rounder. So, I mean, it's a combination of –
the one guy who's dying down is the first rounder, and that's Lane Johnson.
Yeah, right.
He's beat down. He's on his way out. He should be one step out of the door right now.
I think they're going to be looking for a replacement for him. They may even try to find that guy later in this draft.
Sure.
But I like Linderbaum a lot. I would be shocked if Philly went that way in the first round.
I mean, it's something the Steelers might do because they have that lineage.
Sure.
That they're Monty Dawson. I mean, it goes back to Chuck Noll was the center, or Chuck Noll was the center with Cleveland.
And it's a need. It's definitely an area of need. And I think that's entirely feasible.
He looks like a Steeler, plays like a Steeler, even more black and gold in college.
There you go. Yeah, no, and he does. He just has that. That's a good way to play. Just the Steeler mentality. Yeah, but like gritty.
So I do love the fit. I have also heard that Baltimore really likes him, so that would keep him away from a division rival. And Cincinnati too, actually. Baltimore and Cincy are 2 places where I have seen Linderbaum mocked either end of the first round for Cincy or top to middle of the second for Baltimore.
So he sort of dropped that far, huh?
It's so hard to tell because you were talking about all the smoke out there, man. Like it's really hard to tell. He was at one point
in this draft because it's so wide open.
That's exactly right.
Like the 12th pick overall is throwing smoke right now because they don't want anybody to know.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I love watching the draft.
0 quarterbacks in the top 20. 3 quarterbacks. Who knows?
Well, and wide receiver is going to be interesting to see how many go in that first round too, because 5 seem pretty well locked for the first round. But
definitely,
will you go 6? Could you go as many as 8 in that first round?
Reached on this year.
And and listen. I will be surprised, not shocked, but I will be surprised if Jahan Dotson doesn't go in the first round. I know more and more of the mocks that I'm seeing.
No one's saying anything.
Yeah, more and more seem to be early second, but that dude catches everything thrown at him. I mean, the number one thing, and you're splitting hairs when you talk about the speed. The 40 time to me. It's important, but it is a little overrated to me when it comes to wide receiver. I mean, you go back over the years, Jerry Rice and Steve Largent and John Stallworth, and I know I'm going back, but there's, more recent examples too. You have to have speed. I'm not saying, if you're running a 4.9 40, that's you're not going to get drafted in the first round. But man, if you're 4.5, you can even go 4.6. If you catch the ball and you run good routes, you're fine, man. That is the job, and even the size thing. And I know that's kind of the only real knock here on Dotson, but it's not like he's a smurf out there. And when you can jump, when you can run good routes, which he does, and you catch everything thrown at you, I don't know that extra inch or two. I get that there will be spots where that's it comes into play and it is important, but I just can't believe that dude is not going to be a first round pick. I am convinced that he will be one of the receivers taken in that first round.
Well, and he's a technician, and he runs really crisp routes.
And I would think he'll be the 6th guy to go, the 6th receiver to go. He might be 7,
5th or 6th.
Could go as low as 8, I guess. But I'm guessing that there are at least 6 in the first round.
He's probably you're right. He's probably no higher than 6.
He will be the
the 2 Ohio State kids, Olave and Wilson. Probably Jameson Williams.
Yeah.
And then probably like Treylon Burks from Arkansas, probably.
Yeah.
And then
Drake
London, please don't draft him. Philadelphia, please no more jump ball receivers from the Pac-12. I think every Philadelphia Eagles fan will have a nervous breakdown if we take another USC tall jump ball receiver.
We don't throw jump. The Steelers don't throw. I mean, the Eagles don't throw jump balls though. So But I know one thing's going to happen again is there are going to be more Penn State receivers in the NFL than offensive linemen again this year.
Yeah.
I mean, how many years is this going on now?
Rasheed Walker will get drafted.
Yeah, but I mean, how many receivers we just get one guy go down, one receiver? How many are going to be in the NFL then?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I mean, sneakily Penn State has been getting some O-line into the league. I mean, Connor McGovern, Ryan Bates,
Donovan Smith.
What's that?
Donovan Smith,
right? And Mike Bennett is on the Packers practice squad, I think. And I might be missing one or two other guys also.
Well, I
McGregor?
do think.
Did you say McGregor?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they played him a bunch last year, and that as the sixth offensive lineman, they put him at tight end. They put him at. Did you watch that game when they had McGovern at fullback and stuff like that? Remember?
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah,
Remember
now
that?
that you mention it. Yeah. I don't remember him playing tight end. But
Well, they had him. They had him as they had like L. Collins, and they played tight end. Would put him in there, and he was just their sixth guy. They were rotating around when they wanted to go with a heavy offense. So, I mean, there's four guys in the offensive line in the NFL from Penn State, and how many receivers do we have? I mean, Godwin, Robinson,
Deshaun Hamilton, KJ Hamler, and then now you'll add Jahan
There
Dotson.
you go.
Yep.
And that's got to be probably one of the first times ever. I mean, because it's been going on for the last 5-10 years, though. So
That hurts your heart a little bit?
absolutely it does. I mean, my claim to fame is that I'm not claim to fame, but I always say I don't know who else. I mean, again, I had so many people up here this weekend. We were talking about our draft class and this and that, and I think I had a picture of our offensive line on the wall, and we were talking about it. Then I was like, yeah, all of us went to the NFL. And then I was like, okay. So I went back to it. I said, well, I got one for you. When I came to Penn State, and they had 5 classes in the one offensive line room, and there was 26 guys, I believe, then 13 or 14 were in the NFL. And that just by the first day I walked on the campus. That doesn't include guys behind me, this and that as I got older. Just from 1991 to 1995, there was 13 guys who went to the league. And then, not everybody made it. Like there's guys like me who didn't make it, stuff like that. But we all had shots.
Sure. Yeah.
There was drafts, there were, tryouts, and they were getting cut in camp and stuff like that. But that's half your room. So I told the story that they did at NFL Stories on famous draft busts, and there was the third Penn State running back. They, Blair, Kijana, Curtis Enos, and they were like, Peter King came on there and finally said, well, what people finally started realizing was Penn State had some pretty good damn offensive lines in those days. I mean, because they were not doing that well in the NFL, but the offensive line guys were going and thriving.
I will still stick by the greatness of some of those Penn State backs, and just for whatever reason, it didn't translate in the pros. We all know Kijana's story.
Carter. I hate when people say he was a bust. Man, that guy came back and played special teams and fullback for the Washington Redskins and the New Orleans Saints. No one talks about that. He played 7-8 years in the NFL.
And I mean,
that's not a bust.
Curtis and
after
Blair
completely blowing out his knee. I mean, it wasn't like, it was, yeah. So,
and that was back in the day when you did not come back from that the way you do now.
Yes.
You're exactly right, dude. I mean, that was.
I mean, now Jameson Williams blew out his knee in the national championship game. They're like, well, will he be a top 10 pick?
Yeah.
No, it's like, they tested them and everything's good. And it's all in their crap shit. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it was worse before because I talked to my brother's era. He was mid-80s and he had his knee operated on and he had his ACL repaired. And you look at it and I'm like, if you got your knee an ACL repair in the mid-80s, you're getting it replaced by now. That's how bad it was. It wasn't they weren't fixing it. They were just getting it.
Right.
Well, it looked like Dr. Frankenstein operated on you too.
Or like the little half moon that went like this, and then the other side was the zipper. So they peeled the whole knee right back, got in there, and the other side is where they went in. And it was like, oh my God, it's crazy to think about, but that's what they were doing, and that was in the mid '80s, early '90s. I think the first guy to really come back from the ACL was Jerry Rice, and people were like, oh, he's going to lose a step, and he never lost a step. Now, Jerry Rice was an absolute freak, but he never was that speed guy, so he knew how to run routes, and that's what he was.
Right. Yeah. I'm we'll get back to the draft, but thoughts on Blue White Saturday? Did you learn anything there, either of you?
I hate our little condoms we wear on our helmets for practice. I mean, I'm looking at them. I was up in the suite watching them and stuff like that. And it's just, it has to be so tough. I mean, that was pretty much the same scenario that O'Brien ran in 2012 when we had like 78 guys on the team pretty much. And is it injuries or is it just graduation? Because we already have a young team where, I mean, we didn't graduate that many guys, right? Is it transfer portal and injuries?
Little column A, little column B. There are some true freshmen O-linemen coming in. There's transfer portal guy. There were some guys who weren't cleared for contact. And, look, I think I am in the minority here just based on what I've heard.
Yep.
I've heard a lot of grumbling about, I didn't like the format. I don't know what the hell people are talking about. Who cares about the format? Who cares about the blue-white game? Like, oh, man, I need a hard-fought scrimmage between the fourth and fifth string in the second half. I don't know. I thought it was fine. You don't learn too much from blue-white, no matter what the format is.
I want a very
the whole. It's like
so I could drink beer.
Yeah,
that's what I won for the blue-white game, and it was there.
It was a spectacular.
You know what they say? Like like you get certain seafood. It's just a vehicle for the drawn butter. Well, like blue-white is the vehicle for the tailgating.
I got you.
Yeah.
Like when I eat sushi, I cover it with wasabi and soy sauce.
Yes.
And my wife's like, you like wasabi and soy sauce. It doesn't matter.
Correct.
You can just go buy a California roll. You don't need to buy the tuna roll.
This is true.
Why don't you buy the imitation crab? Because that's what you like. Just get a side of soy wasabi. You'll be good. And I was like, damn it, you're right.
The blue-white game is imitation crab, and the tailgating is soy sauce and wasabi.
Yeah. It was beautiful. So I was up in a suite. So, I don't know if you guys have ever been up there. So you have the overlook of the whole valley. It's just an awesome view. And you see for miles upon miles there. And it's just an awesome. And I just love, like we talk about how the Masters is this is our spring is breaking. And it finally did. And then Sunday or Saturday was just absolutely awesome. And it could have been 10 degrees colder and it wouldn't have mattered. It was just a perfect day because we were outside. And it was like spring is finally here, and it was awesome. Family in town, everybody brings their kids up, and Penn State did a very good job with the whole boardwalk thing because I had family bring their kids up, and the kids absolutely loved it. How was the Madman?
Yep, Reggie absolutely loved it. We waited in line about Mad Turtle.
Mad Turtle.
We waited in line for about. It felt like hours. It was probably a good 30 to 40 minutes, somewhere in there, for the Ferris wheel, which we call the merry-go-round. So if you see the Mad Turtle and ask him about the Ferris wheel, he's not going to know what you're talking about. He refers to it as the merry-go-round, and I corrected him about 5 times. I'm like, you know what? At this point, we're just going to roll with it.
That's still less of a line than I had to get into the homecoming game this year, though. So that's not too bad.
There you go. It is funny. I was thinking just about how perspectives change, and I'm kind of with you, Booch, in that, I mean, I like the blue-white game, but really what that game is for, that weekend is for families, and especially young ones that might not have the opportunity to go to a regular season game.
Yes.
To have that opportunity. And it really is just to socialize. And yes, I mean, you want to watch a little football, and I realize there are some that are more, and I used to be and probably will be again, one of the more diehard and break it down. I'm just, at this point, I was just up there with Reg, and so it was just the two of us, and I was more focused on kind of his enjoyment and what he was taking away from it. And it's always kind of interesting to just get the takeaways there. And but it was a great time. I think the 2 hours, I am a fan of having that. We know it's going to start at 2. We know it's going to be over at 4. Again, just from my perspective, that's cool because, Dad, when's it going to be over? In exactly 33 minutes, kiddo. So we can run around a little bit more if you want. So I like that part of it. And I thought you got to see, again, for whatever you're going to see or learn out of it, I mean, you got to see some of the issue with a true scrimmage is you might not see those short yardage situations that you want to get a look at. Hey, how is this? And again, I don't know how much you get as a fan because as we've talked about this many times over the years, but if the running game is looking great, and I thought it looked pretty good, what does that mean? That your defensive run game is bad, or is it that offensive line is actually coming along? Is it that Singleton is that good? I have no idea. I mean, and nobody really does at this stage. Coaches might have a feel for it, but
yes.
And that's always the danger of the blue-white game too. Is when we used to do the radio talk show afterwards, it's like, oh, so and so is
look great.
Look out, man. He's going to be he's going to be phenomenal in the fall. And it's like a couple of things. One, you do realize that this was one out of whatever it is, 15, 20 practices.
Yep.
Like, so we might have seen that kid's best practice ever, and. The other guy that, we were waiting to see might have just had his worst practice ever for, again, a wide variety of reasons. Could be battling the flu, could just, not have gotten a good night's sleep, could have just had a bad practice for no reason other than it just was a bad practice. So it's always, the people that try to take, all right, well, now we know Sean Clifford, where he's at. Drew Aller, he's not ready yet. Not for this. You have no idea.
How about 2 number 9 quarterbacks?
But it was fun to watch.
My favorite number. I love it.
We had 2 number 9s out there.
Yeah.
People were like, I don't know which one that is. Well, I had people who actually stayed in the stands, and they were like, it was just
neither
fun.
of them was McSorley. I'm pretty sure of that.
Damn it. They said it was so nice because they could actually spread out a little bit.
Yep.
Like you're just saying, the Mad Turtle could actually have a little room to run around and stuff like that. And it's true.
Yeah, if you got younger kids,
you got
it's perfect.
110,000 people in there. You're a sardine. You look like us on the TV on the screen right now.
Yeah.
I feel like Booch is like rocking me back like I'm like a puppet over here. Leaning forward. Booch is trying to he's spreading out around here.
Mm-hmm. Sharp elbows, man. A little Charles Barkley action.
Chuck Barkley.
Okay, so I'll give you 3 football observations from Saturday and a bonus. Real quickly. I can't take too much away from these things, as we've said. I did think it was encouraging that Jonathan Sutherland seems to be very comfortable at the outside backers position they've shifted him to. And if he can play significant snaps for the defense, that's big-time bonus, because that linebacker rotation I was a little bit concerned about.
And I think with his I think that's a good fit for what Penn State needs defensively against Big Ten offenses.
Yes.
Because I do think having him in the involved in the passing game, the defensive pass game is underneath is going to pay big dividends at some point.
Yeah, it should be a good
some important game.
Scheme fit for Manny Diaz as well. James even talked about how Manny they were already thinking about making the move, and when he came in and evaluated the personnel, he said, that guy's my linebacker.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good. I also think the depth at safety looks like it could potentially be a strength. I think we feel really good. Bringing Jair Brown back, getting him for another year was huge for the defense overall. But it looks like we're going to have a few other players there who are going to be able to log snaps, maybe come in as a nickelback. Zakee Wheatley is a kid I've been intrigued with since we recruited him, and he was very hyped this spring. He played really well, was in on a lot of plays. So I thought that was encouraging. I do think my third football observation is, and Noble would love this, there's going to be a punting battle in the summer.
Oh, God.
We have a true freshman punter who is very highly thought of as far as these things go. And don't sleep on it, man. Field position is such an important part of the game.
Yep.
And the punters did not knock my socks off after years of being spoiled by Gillikin and Jordan Stout, who maybe gets his name called this week.
But at least they were not scoring plays. Non-scoring plays for the punters, which I think was encouraging, actually, for the overall team morale.
On
Saturday.
Enough punting talk. What's your mystery?
Okay, so my bonus observation
Enough kicking talk
is that another great advantage of blue-white is that you can go sit wherever you want.
True.
So my friend and I, we just decided to be nostalgic and go sit back in the freshman student section where it was when we were in school.
Was Bruce Springsteen Glory Days playing in the background?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Terrible view of the field, just brought back wonderful memories. And we got to sit right next to the blue band. And I can say definitively now, after having been right there, they really, really, really need to let the Blue Band play more during the games because they played a lot on Saturday, and it didn't even register on me until a day or two afterwards. And I thought, man, I really enjoyed the environment in the stadium. There's just something different about it. And my wife and I were talking about something with the Blue Band, and it clicked. I was like, oh, they let the band play a ton more during the blue-white game, and I loved it. Like that's unique. That's college football to me. So they need to let the Blue Band play more.
DJ wasn't going during the game.
No, they did not play Ozzy Osbourne every single second. There wasn't something happening on the field, and it was wonderful.
I'm not even going to start. We're talking about music on the sideline. We're talking about punting. My goodness gracious, what in the world?
Okay, go back. Let's go back to the draft.
Noble would be over here going,
I love to bring the punting up just to needle it. But punting is defense. Just remember that.
Punters are holders, okay? That's the only worth they have. They could punt and hold the ball for the kickers to score points.
Can I make one more comment about punting?
Absolutely, you can.
I resolved
the
entrance,
the guys running on the field, or what?
What's that?
I thought that was solid.
The entrance was
the holding
Like
hands.
our defense run out there for that first goal line scrimmage, and they're running out there trying to pump the crowd up. Like, there's like 12 people in that section up there. I was like, come on, guys, let's pump the brakes here a little bit.
Hey, I thought the 12 responded pretty well, to be honest with you.
They bought the noise a little bit. Made a big stop on third down.
The 12th man. So real quickly about the punting. The reason why I pay so much attention to it is I remember sitting in Beaver Stadium one day, I think it was 2014 and 2015 season. And you remember sanctions, man, we were really cutting to the bone. And so we had to bring in some walk-on punters. I won't call anybody out by name, but there were some pretty sorry performances. I remember Penn State actually losing a game because we had a 17-yard punt that we shanked out of bounds inside our own territory, and it lost us the game. And I remember thinking, it may have even been that moment, I was like, I am never taking for granted that we have a half-decent punter.
And punchers. We really have.
Yeah. And
it is an important element, and especially
if you have a bad one, you know it.
Yeah,
true. And then when you have a good one, you don't appreciate it until you get a bad one. Good point, Booch. I'll give it to you.
No, it doesn't. It can completely change the field around, and again, it's a big deal if you're a defense, whether you're trying to protect 90 yards or 60 yards. Or
big time, especially because I am not expecting us to light the scoreboard up next year. I think we're going to need the defense to keep us in some games again, especially early on.
Yeah.
We got to talk before we get off the air, Ironhead. What happened Sunday afternoon to your boys? Flyers
talking about the Maulers Stars matchup, the Philadelphia Pittsburgh matchup that everybody was looking at.
The Penguins down.
Yeah, I'm not overly impressed with the Maulers. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
The Flyers have won the Stanley Cup. They beat the Penguins once this year, so you know what that won me? That won me from buying friends of mine cases of beer. Now it's only a 6-pack.
There you go.
But if it was a season sweep, it would have been cases, multiple cases.
Yeah.
But the Stars Maulers game was just. All right, I do want to say the USFL. I know we brought it up here. I understand what they're doing, and I love it that they're playing all the games in one place. But you're not really getting a fan base set up by not having not having the games in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. They should just have blank teams. You know what I mean? I mean, you're expecting to have a Philadelphia fans, but you're in all the games are in Birmingham, and I know they're going to move there next year. And I understand, and I can see why they did it, just to try and get it off the ground a little bit, work on the rules, work on the coaches and stuff like that. So, have you watched anything?
And I was all confused. I thought it was Birmingham, Pennsylvania, down by Tyrone there. Where that isn't. It's actually, I guess, Birmingham, Alabama. Who knew?
Birmingham is.
They might get a bigger crowd down there. Honestly, that'd be a big deal.
Actually,
that would be a big deal.
Birmingham, Alabama is one of the most bizarre places in the world. I have never understood why they called it the Iron Bowl. Never knew. Then I watched the history of the Iron Bowl, and it's the second largest producer
of iron ore
in this country behind Pittsburgh. And it just blew my mind. Birmingham, Alabama. How the hell does that happen? But that's where the Iron Bowl comes from.
It's craziness.
Alabama, Auburn. But, I don't mind the USFL if you guys want to talk about it. I mean, I haven't noticed anything I don't know who's really jumping off the page of me. But
I'm dying to talk about the USFL.
But the NFL needs a farm system, in my opinion. They really do. And they have the XFL and then the USFL here. So does the NFL have their hooks into the XFL a little bit, or is it the USFL that they're part of? I don't think it's the USFL.
It's not.
So they're going to, I mean, I just think that with not having practicing right now, but anymore for these guys and stuff like that to learn how to play professional football, because there is a little bit different, that having the USFL and the XFL will actually make the NFL game stronger, in my opinion. And I hope that both of these things both work, because I enjoy watching some football. I'm not sitting there like waiting for the game to come on. If the Phillies were on or the Flyers were on, I'd watch them ahead of any kind of USFL game. But I can still watch a game every once in a while. So, and I do hope that
I haven't actually. I mean, I'm not boycotting it or anything. I'd like to watch. I honestly haven't watched any of it yet.
Typical Pittsburgh fan. Yep. They're 0-2, so you've already
exactly. They're out. Your 10, you're
Forget
gone. About it.
Sound like a Flyers fan right now.
No longer interested.
Fair weather USFL fans.
Absolutely correct.
Pittsburgh Maulers got deserted by their fans, man. But
well, at least the Pirates only gave up 3 touchdowns.
What do you think? We'll do a little work, do some homework the next 2 nights and get a little draft order. Who we think we're gonna?
We could do that.
Draft amongst the teams.
Sure.
Thursday, boys and
What's
girls.
happening with your 76ers, boys? First team ever to go up 3-0 and lose a series in NBA history.
By the way, I don't know if you saw the Micah Parsons thing in Hershey. Have you seen it?
Way to change the subject. Good job.
No, I haven't seen this.
He didn't know how to drop a puck. He just walked out there and dropped it before the players actually even got there. And then they walked back over and they're like, drop it now.
Go.
Was good seeing all the a lot of guys back this weekend, man. A lot of guys back.
Yeah, no, it was fun. From a fan's perspective, it was
the difference in that weather.
The weather is everything for that. I mean, it really is, because having the carnival rides and the
what's up?
Did it match up weather to per 1,000 people every degree? It seems pretty close.
It was right around there.
Yeah,
it's about 60.
They said 62, and there was 162 in the parking lots. I think. Please,
there was definitely
the number
more
of people out in the parking. I was trying to figure out what if I was going to estimate it. I mean, there were at least another 15, 20 more.
I mean, I would. Yeah.
I would say at least another 20. I think
I saw behind the suites. I didn't know, like up towards the Bryce Jordan Center and the paved lots. I don't know exactly how many was on that side. How far back to that? Because they had that carnival and the boardwalk system there, so I don't know if people could park there or not. But I was going to say 30,000 in the parking lots that didn't go into the game.
I will say my tailgate, including myself, produced 2 attendees total at the game.
Oh.
Because, I mean, again, like the weather was great. People were having fun.
Yeah.
Especially if you'd been out there as soon as the lots opened, which we were. You spent the first hour and a half under your tent. Whenever they
9 o'clock.
9, whenever they opened. I can't remember. 9, I think.
Good for you. Yeah, we didn't have the whole regular tailgate going. We didn't have tents, didn't have the tables, the grills, any of that stuff. So it was clown show. So we would just actually partied at my house while it was raining and stuff like that. And once we saw the weather and this and that, we said, let's go, packed it up and went in. A little hard, a little brutal getting in there, but we got in there. But getting out was a little hectic, but we got out of there.
In and out. That's all we ask.
Really?
In and out.
There you go. Good for you.
Yeah, man. Ag fields. I slipped right out. No problem.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we'll break down the draft a little more on Thursday's show as we get ready and see what happens with your 76ers, boys.
Yeah, true. So there's only one round.
Starting
Thursday,
to wonder.
Right? They're going to go one round, just one round Thursday, and the 2 and 3 on Friday, right? Is that
correct?
They're going back to that route.
Yeah.
Okay. Looking forward to it, boys. Our little draft party on Thursday afternoon for our show.
Yeah, should be fun. Yeah, worried about my Penguins now.
Yeah.
Worried about my Pirates. Worried about my Maulers.
The Pirates are
worried about my Steelers. I'm just worried.
Should be.
Yeah.
You should be. Beautiful spring weather coming, boys and girls.
Get
out and enjoy
time.
it, man.
Although I heard we could still get just another skiff of snow here.
Stop. My voice is coming back a little bit. My voice is coming back a little bit.
All right. Well, we will be back on Thursday. Until then, be good and be safe.
Don't draft Drake
Best 2 out of 3?
It's one fantastic ride. The turbocharged, tech-inspired new Kia Forte.
There's always something happening at Quaker Steak Lube. From live music to exciting new flavors, meet your friends and refuel at your local Quaker Steak Lube today. Can't slow down? Then order online. Pick up and get back on the road. Find us at thelube.com.
You know, we humans have come a long way on our journey. Our first language wasn't exactly, a language. Medium well, thank you. Our first vehicles weren't the fastest.
Can you,
Faster. Hey, boys, punch it! Our first maps weren't that accurate. And you know, fellas, the world is actually, give a ball. Our first phones weren't smart. Text mom winky face emoji. Our first screens, you couldn't touch.
Mom, Dad's feeling the TV.
No one likes a snitch, son.
And the first electric vehicles weren't, let's just say, they look nothing like the first ever Ioniq 5. I mean, two-way charging, AR heads-up display, 300-mile range. What can't this thing do? Look, the point is, it's been a long,
yeah, good point. Really long journey.
but worth it.
Your journey at its most evolved, the fully electric